What's going on, guys? It's time for another ratings review. Today, EA released the top 20 goalies in NHL 24, so I'm going to go through, give you guys my thoughts. At number 1 here, we got Andrei Vasilevskiy coming in at 93 overall. So this is a little bit controversial. I feel like everyone has a different opinion about which Russian goalie should be the number 1 in the NHL. Some people say Vasilevskiy, some Sorokin, some Shesterkin. Personally, I think I would lean Vasilevskiy just due to how good he's been in the playoffs the past 5 years. Also, too, I think just the consistency. He does have, more of a career behind him where he has been good. Shesterkin, Sorokin obviously have a couple of great years, but not quite the career that Vasilevskiy's had. So I personally don't really mind him at number 1. For goalies, you guys care about the attributes. I can kind of show them quickly there, but obviously they don't matter too much. And speaking of Sorokin and Shesterkin, they're actually at 2 and 3 there, both tied with 92 overall. So I feel like that's quite fair. These are definitely the top 3 goalies in the league. Kind of crazy too. All 3 are Russian. So again, I think, people could argue different guys at number 1, but I think Vasilevskiy is the safer pick, so I don't mind him having the 1+ overall, and I think 92s for both Sorokin and Shesterkin is quite fair. Again, X factors there, can't be right. These guys definitely have more than that. Number 4 here, Connor Hellebuyck at 91 overall. I think that's pretty fair for Hellebuyck. Definitely a top 5 goalie in the league in my mind. 91 overall has him, a little bit below that other tier with Sorokin and Shesterkin, so I think that's not too bad of a rating. Number 5 there, Linus Ullmark, 90 overall. So this is probably one of the harder goalies to give a grade to, just because obviously won the Vezina Trophy last year, but he was playing behind the best NHL team of all time in terms of the regular season. So obviously that's going to help, make his stats a little bit better. I think when you look at Jeremy Swayman as well, Swayman had incredible numbers. It's tough for me to give Ullmark the 90 because before this year, he really hasn't, shown he was that good of a goalie. I think 88, 89 is probably better for him. And if he does, continue to prove it this year, especially with Boston not being quite as good a team, then you put him in that 90 overall conversation. Next year, number 6, we got Jake Onger, also 90 overall. I think Jake Onger is definitely one of the better young goalies in the league. For me, though, is he a 90 already? Probably not. In terms of franchise, he's still going to grow and stuff. I think, high 80, probably an 89 would be more fair for him. Number 7 here, Saros, only 89 overall. I think this is EA doing him dirty. He for sure, in my mind, is a top 5 goalie, so should be at least a 90, if not a 91. Tying him there with Connor Hellebuyck. I think he's deserving to be in the top 5. He's better than Ullmark. He's better than Onger. I'm not really sure why he got downgraded, maybe because the Predators sucked last year, but his individual numbers still weren't that bad. Whether you look at his actual statistics, where his goals against the save percentage are pretty much identical to the year prior, or even his analytics, which are still very strong, Saros there should definitely be higher rated. After him, number 8, we have Freddie Anderson, 88 overall. He's looked very good since joining the Carolina Hurricanes. Again, he's got one of the best decors in the league playing in front of him, which is even better this season, so I think it does factor into it, but personally, I wouldn't have Anderson any lower than an 87, so him being an 88, I think is, pretty close to being right on. After him at number 9, you got Thatcher Demco, 87 overall. I think Demco is a very good goalie. Obviously, dealt with injuries all last year. I think, if Demko wasn't injured, he probably is an 88 right now. So, considering that, I think 87 for him is more than fair. And then finally here, guys, rounding out the top 10, we got Carter Hart, also 87 overall. I saw a lot of people said that on Twitter, saying that's too high rated for Hart, but honestly, he was on such a bad Flyers team. I think, his goals against save percentage were pretty average, but his underlying analytics were actually really good. For me, I wouldn't have Hart any lower than 86. So 87 might be a tad high, but it's not, drastically high or anything like that, which seems to be what some people are thinking based on the reactions I saw. And at number 11 here, guys, we got Tristan Jarry, also 87 overall. I think for him, that's probably a little bit high. I think personally, I'd have him like an 86. Just when I look at, say, Demko, for instance, I think Demko is a better goalie. Now, I was saying Demko could be an 88 if he wasn't injured last year, but still, I think Jarry 86 makes more sense. Below him there, you got Bobrovsky, 86. Honestly, kind of like Ullmark, he's probably one of the harder guys to give a grade to, simply because regular season last year, he was pretty average, but then in the playoffs, he was absolutely incredible. Big reason why the Florida Panthers made that Stanley Cup final. So for me, it's like, how much do you weigh the playoff performance compared to the regular season performance? Also, Taylor Bobrovsky, he was pretty bad, the last couple years in Florida, but before that, he was like a Vezina caliber goalie in Columbus. So I don't know. For me, when I see Bobrovsky, the number that I would kind of pick is 87. I think 87 overall is a little bit more fair for him, just based on career success, and then again, just how good he was in the playoffs. I think playoffs is really the goalie's chance to shine, right? I think every year you don't win the Stanley Cup without a goalie playing well. You see that with Vegas last year, Adin Hill really stepping up. Obviously, you can't, grade it all on that, because Adin Hill shouldn't be higher than 83 in my opinion, but it does help. But yeah, I think Bobrovsky, I'd give 87. Then Jeremy Swayman here, number 13, the other Boston goalie. Crazy, Boston's got 2 goalies in the top 13. I think as well I'd give him a bump. I think, his numbers suggested he's better than 86 overall. I'd probably make him an 87. Again, is playing behind that Boston Bruins team helping him out? I think it is, but even analytics, which kind of try to limit how much that matters, show he was a very, very strong goalie last year. So I'd probably make him an 87, and I'd probably drop Allmark down to 89, because I do think, you know, they are pretty close there, close to the gap currently being shown. Next here, we got Philip Gustafson, number 14, 86 overall. I think Gustafson actually a little bit too low rated as well. He had very good numbers last year for the Wild. Stole the starting job from Marc-Andre Fleury. I think you could probably give Gustafson 87, just based on how good he was last year. I think he is in conversation with all these other guys that are around 87, which I think, you know, is a pretty fair rating for like a top half, you know, starting goalie in the league. Next here, Alexander Georgiev, number 15, 86 overall. So he's another guy that I think really benefits from playing behind such a good team. You kind of saw what happened to Grubauer when he left Colorado for Seattle. Georgiev, of course, having a lot better numbers with the Avs than he did with the Rangers. I think 86 is pretty fair when you look at kind of his numbers, everything I already described. I feel like that's around right having as well. Jacob Markstrom there, number 16, also an 86. Definitely had a bad year with the Flames. I think to start NHL 23, he was like a 90, something like that. So definitely a big fall for him. Hopefully for the Flames, he can bounce back. I think when you look at him, Huberdeau, Mackenzie Weegar, all having down years, they're probably all going to bounce back at least a little bit, which is why I have the Flames probably making the playoffs. But in terms of Markstrom, 86, it's probably fair. On number 17 there, Ilya Samsonov, 86. Another really hard one to grade, because last year he looked really good with the Leafs, but of course the year prior wasn't very good, which is why the Washington Capitals didn't even give him a qualifying offer. They literally just let him walk as a free agent when he wasn't even, you know, 26 years old yet. So obviously good to see him bouncing back with the Leafs. I think 86 is pretty fair. Definitely wouldn't have him higher than that, nor would I have him lower than like an 85. So I think that's a pretty good number for him. Number 18 here, Darcy Kemper. I would have Kemper as like an 86 or an 87, so I feel like 86 a little bit on the lower side. Capitals were bad last year. I think it's a pretty fair rating. John Gibson there at number 19, 86 overall. I think that's still a little bit high for Gibson. Last year they have him in the top 10, so finally they lowered him a bit. Gibson probably should be like an 85. He's not a terrible goalie, but he's definitely not the elite goalie that he used to be. And then finally here at number 20, we actually have Husso of the Red Wings. So Husso very up and down all season. I think 86 is a pretty fair rating for him. If anything, I might have gone like 85, just because, you know, this was his first year as a starter after being kind of more of a tandem goalie, if not even a backup with the Blues. So 86, again, pretty fair, maybe even slightly high. Should be an 85, but for the most part, I feel like the goalie ratings really weren't too bad. I think there was definitely more drastic changes to make the top 20 defensemen and top 20 wingers, but let me hear your guys' thoughts on these ratings in the comment section below. Also, make sure to subscribe for I'm guessing the top 20 centers tomorrow. And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.